airport. ¿Estás grabando aquí? No, aquí es.
No.
A mí. We're here in the Mexico City airport. I'll go ahead and hold this myself for a minute. That may work out the best. And we're on our way to Panama City. So I broke out of the rancho. That was no small feat. We had to traverse cartel country under cover of darkness. Huge gaping potholes and gunmen everywhere. So praise the Lord, we got out of that. And there is a lot going on in Central America, so I just want to bring you up to speed just a tiny bit on that. ¿A dónde vamos? All right. Te sigo. So there's a massive revival happening and a political movement. And it started just a few weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago, in El Salvador, which was why it was so important to be there. A lot of miraculous things happened in El Salvador. If you don't follow my Living by the Sword radio broadcasts, please take a look. There's a link to the archive on gospelgunslingers.com. That's probably the easiest way to find it. I think you're zoomed in here. Let's see what we see. Oh, so there it zoomed in right on my face. So yeah, movement all throughout the world. Let me just hit a couple high points. You know, this is all about taking our nations back and locking up the criminals, whether they're in high places. Even the problems that they had with street crime in El Salvador, there were politicians that protected those gangs that just loved the carnage, that were death worshippers, devil worshippers. And so those people have to be taken down. And so it's both sides. There's a political side to the movement, and then there's a side where it affects every person on the street when they can conduct their business. They can just be a small independent business person and not get murdered. Raise their kids, right? So this is happening in El Salvador, and it's pretty cool to see. But after that inauguration, diplomats started going around the world. You know, just one little example, the president of Costa Rica came. That's a nation that's been pacifist forever. They have a pacifist constitution. They don't have an army. And for that president to come and look in on what Bukele's doing, he could shut down the migrant caravans himself. But now here's the big one. Panama. The new president, who's a tough cop, he used to be the security minister, he shut down the Darien Gap before. All these idiots in the fake news say it can't be done. He did it before without building a wall. Just sent in the army, threw all the guerrillas out, and drove them back to Colombia. Well, that guy is taking the presidency. Molino, Jose Raul Molino is taking the presidency on the 1st of July. So that's what I'm on my way to do, is to be there and to bless him, to be in prayer as another nation. This is another renuevo. This is a tender shoot out of dry ground. And he's vowed that the migrant caravans are over. And you know what? He's getting zero help from the U.S. government at this point. Not really getting any help. Will you take this? Puedes llevar esto? This will help me to... All right. We got a couple people on the feed. I'll try to take questions, but I don't know that I'll be able to. I have to put my glasses on, and you see we're going through the city. So I'm just gonna paramos aquí. If I go down in the subway tunnel, I'll lose my feed. So we're just gonna hang out here for a minute. So see, the vice president of El Salvador, maybe 7 or 10 days after he took the oath, he went down to Panama and met with the cabinet appointees. So there is a Bukele-style movement getting ready to happen in Panama. Everybody knows it. Just a couple days after getting inaugurated, the vice president, Felix Ulloa of El Salvador, flew to St. Petersburg like that fast. Within 48 hours after taking the oath, I'm going to say, he was in St. Petersburg. And El Salvador signed an agreement with Russia for economic development, trade, commerce, and security cooperation. Yeah, they could have military cooperation. Now, a lot of people have a bad attitude about that. It was a hard thing for me to get used to, being outside the borders of the USA, that Russia is helping a lot of these nations to break free. Now, they still got their old alliances with Cuba and Venezuela and places that a lot of bad things are happening. But on the other hand, they're helping these nations to break free. You probably haven't heard, because this just hit the news today. There's a security cooperation agreement between Mexico and Russia. In fact, Vladimir Putin's supposed to be coming to Mexico sometime soon. And Mexico is really advancing as an oil-producing nation. So Mexico is its whole own thing, and it's a great nation. It's not like these little nations of 3 million, 6 million, 18 million people like Ecuador. All right, there was one other point I wanted to make. Oh yeah, Catch the Living by the Sword broadcast, because I break all this down in greater detail in an actual news report with a transcript that you can send to people, that you can send to your senator. But people came from around the world to the Bukele inauguration. People came from Africa. The Kingdom of Marruecos of Morocco, which has a lot of Spanish speakers, sent a delegation. Equatorial Guinea, the only Spanish-speaking nation in Africa, sent a delegation. They're looking in on this rise of freedom. By the way, all these African presidents, they want AMLO for the Secretary General of the UN. There's a real move in that direction. When I heard that the UN wanted AMLO for the Secretariat, I thought, why would they want that? This has been the face of globalism my whole life, is the blue helmets. And then the lawyer said to me, all the presidents of Africa have seen what's happened in Mexico, and they want their nations to turn around the same way. So it's possible that our freedom movement could take over the UN. If Andres Manuel takes the Secretariat, the entire face of the UN would change. Nayib Bukele stood up at the United Nations in New York when he was a young, fresh president and said, this organization is obsolete. He said that. So not only from Africa, but from Eastern Europe. Yeah, the lady president of Kosovo came. And now there's movement within Kosovo that Kosovo is going to have a Bukele-style turnaround, that they're going to stop letting migrants into their nation, that they're going to stand as a Christian nation surrounded by Muslims, that they're going to embrace their ethnic Albanian heritage and have, a Kosovo first policy. And then we see what's going on in France. We see what's going on in Germany. Conservative candidates are just storming through. Meloni in Italy. There is a movement happening around the world, and the new wave of it is coming out of Central America. So that's why I need to be there. And I'm standing outside the airport with no ticket to Panama City. So I need somebody to go to gospelgunslingers.com and start hitting the buttons so that I can get into position for what needs to be done down there and report to you from the ground in Panama City what happens as the new president takes power. And even as I'm traveling, there's a high chance of the volcano blowing. My assistant gunner on my last trip to El Salvador, he said, "What do you mean when the volcano blows?" I mean, all hell could break loose. The Israeli war could break loose. The Taiwan Strait could break loose. The Russian Navy in Cuba could break loose. There could be a lot of things that go wild weasel. But there's also a real volcano that could explode. He's like, "There's a volcano?" And I'm like, "Yeah, where's it at?" "It's over there in the mist." When your plane takes off, you'll see it. But welcome to Central America, Latin America. There's always a volcano. All the Caribbean islands, they're volcanic islands, they have a volcano. And Jimmy Buffett sang a song about it. I don't know. I don't know where I'm gonna go when the volcano blows. I've played it on the radio show. Back on the radio, by the way, I got unplugged, and that's another thing that I have to pay for, and I'm way behind, but I got a little bit of grace, and I'm back on the airwaves. The new show should play today on WRMI and went out on WBCQ yesterday, so that's going a lot of places that we can't get with the internet and so forth, and I'm glad to be back on there. But this is the cutting edge. This is the tip of the spear. You know, I had a dream just last night, my last little nap before I got up and packed my bag to roll out of cartel country at 0400. And in this dream, the army showed up. They had been patrolling all around the neighborhood, and I thought I heard a lot of gunshots during the night. It might have been thunder. But in the armored caravan, the convoy, pulled up and stopped, and I sat in the team leader's position in the passenger seat of the lead armored vehicle as we went out on a patrol. And then as we went on patrol, we got to a place where there were concrete buildings and people in them. So all the troops deployed, and I was right there with the point man. I was right beside him, and he had a green vest and helmet on, a green digi camos, and I had a green armored vest on too. And as I went in beside him, it was dark as a dungeon as we went from room to room in this concrete structure. It just went further and further underground. We got about 10 rooms in, and his flashlight went out and everything turned pitch dark. And isn't that just the way it is? We are turning our nations around. The security forces are hunting the bad guys. But it's the Lord's servants that are right there shedding light on the situation. And without that, all evolution stops. The Marines won't even advance without their corpsmen. How much less without the chaplains of this age and this generation in the last days. So that's what's going on. Help me to get to the next station. You know, I used to do crazy stuff like this before I had an audience, before I had partners. Years and years and years went by just as the offscouring of the earth. No voice, no audience, no help. And God would open the door. And now I'm very thankful that I do have some people out there that believe in what we're doing and what God's doing. I appreciate you, and I bless every one of you in the name of Jesus. But hey, let's not be like the crowd as Jesus was crucified, where they all stood around and said, hey, let's watch and see if Elijah comes to save him. Don't be like that. Get in the game. Get some skin in the game. Lay down your credit card. Buy me a ticket to Panama City. Would you do it? Think about it. God bless you. You know, if you get on Telegram, you can message me instantly, or you can fill out the contact box and I'll get that message fairly quickly. Be happy to call you back. I'm not a distant person. I may be in a faraway place, but I'm easy to get a hold of. So, buzz me up. All right. God bless. I'm going to just look at these messages. I got to put my glasses on for it. Let's see what we got. I think we're all just saying hi. Yeah, there's gorillas everywhere. And howler monkeys. All right, signing off for now. Bye-bye.